Golly, that's heavy. There we go, yeah. That's all it needed was that extra little bit and it just come right on out of there. So this is how it works when the camera's not rolling. See about getting this big old beast back on. Yeah. Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. We're working on the 1966 Chevy one-ton dually. So just to make sure everybody knows what's going on, we got a 1966 cab that we think may have came off of a U-Haul, we're not really sure, but it's sitting on a 1973 square body frame. It's a long frame, so we need to shorten it down so that our short bed will fit on there. This is a short, narrow bed that we've actually widened out to fit over our dually wheels. You see that there? So what I want to do today is we lowered the front on the last video. We put drop spindles, lowering springs and everything, lowered the front, got it looking really nice, man. I think that looks great. I love the way that looks. Probably about 95% of you guys loved it too. Had a few of you wasn't too into it, but hey, I get it. Different strokes for different folks, not a big deal. But we got to get the back of this the same as the front. We can't have it all hiked up in the air like that. I mean, look at all that. That's crazy. So what I thought we would do is we'd start off with getting the leaf springs. We're going to narrow those down a little bit, man. It's got a big old stack of springs in the rear. I mean, yeah, look at all these, man. We don't need any of those anymore. Its hauling days are over. The most this thing might haul is a boat or something, some light duty stuff, not a big deal. So we're going to get rid of most of that. That's going to bring the rear way down. We'll probably end up having to put a C-notch in there somewhere. We'll see. We'll know more here in just a little bit. But for now, let's get all this blown apart. We need to put the leaf springs on the bottom of this axle. Between doing that and removing a bunch of those springs, man, this thing's gonna drop way down. It's gonna look real nice. Let's slide a jack stand up under the frame here. We'll let this down and it'll take some of the weight off the springs. That'll help us out a little bit. I'll put one over here on the passenger side too. I think I could drop this down a little bit. That ought to get some of that weight off. All right, let's go ahead and get these duals out of the way. That'll kind of open up some room to work in there, I think. About to get this thing off of here. I think the first thing I'm going to do is start hosing all this stuff down with some WD-40. So I'm going to start unbolting all of this. We got to get this unloose. That's the U-bolts that actually hold all of this together to the axle. We'll get that out of the way, and then there's just two more mounting points, one on each end. We get that leaf spring off of there. Like I said a minute ago, a lot of these leaves are going away, so putting it back together is going to be a lot easier. Definitely won't be as heavy. When I'm doing these U-bolts, I like to kind of unloosen them evenly rather than just spin them right off. So I'll just back off a little bit. This is one U-bolt right here, and then this is another one back here, and I'll just do a little bit on each one until they finally come loose. See there, we're already loose, so we're good. We can just run them off now. Hey, there's one. Nice. I'm gonna take a second and go ahead and run the washers and the nuts back on there so we don't lose any of it. Not sure if we'll be reusing these or not. We may have to get new ones. We usually do when you go through and get rid of half the stack of springs. A lot of times you'll have to get some of these. They have the threads. They go further down. We'll find out. I may have some laying around. Alright, there's the other one. Let's see if we can get this bolt out of here. Actually a nut. It should come off of there. Hopefully, or it'll just break off, one or the other. Wow, that actually spun off there. That is awesome. Alright, once we get that off, then we should be able to lift this top pack off of here. There it comes. Okay, there goes this one. Yeah, we don't need this anymore. Like I said, his hauling days are over, so we just don't need all these leaves. And this is gonna soften it up, make it ride more like a half ton. See if we can pull the shock out of the way. Well, that was easy enough. Bolt came flying out of there. I'm gonna try to separate the axle from that leaf spring. There we go. I'll wiggle some of the weight off of it. All right, there's one end. Okay, one more bolt. Let's see if this one will come out. Always got to be one. So I think the nut's damaged down there. I can't get a wrench to stay on. I'm just going to hit it up with the vice grips, see what happens. She put up a fight, man, but we won. Clamp some vice grips on, see if we can pull this out. Man, we got so lucky on this. Nothing's been seized up. These are notorious for getting seized up, and you got to heat everything up with a torch to try to get that to come out of there. There. Okay, there's that end. One more end to go. There it is. That's what we're looking for right there. These things are heavy. So on this, we're going to be taking these bottom ones off too. We don't need any of those either. And what we'll be left with is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leaves, which is more than enough. I think that'll do it. All right, with the nut on the end of it there, it's just so you ain't worrying about it blowing apart, because it is under a little bit of tension. Hitting it up with the WD-40, smacking around with a hammer a little bit, getting all the leaves to kind of break apart. That's going to help that to slide out of there in a minute. So I think I've got them all loosened up now. See there? That's the part we're gonna be taking off, so. Alrighty, that's what we're looking for. So yeah, this is the part we're not going to be using anymore. This is the part that we're going to be left with. Like I said a minute ago, that should be plenty of springs. Okay, we're going to tear down this side the same way we did the other side. I'll check in with you guys in just a little bit. Alright, there's that pack. That bolt out. That bolt out. Sometimes you want to get stuck and just gotta do a little prying. Something like that. Yeah. Each Wheaties, man, this stuff's heavy. Got us a new bolt for the leaf spring. That other one didn't look too good. I think this will be a lot better for it. So I'll get this in there, get it tightened up. Once this is tight right here, we can go ahead and put the leaf back in. And this time it's going to go on the bottom of that axle. So I'll show you how we deal with that. Well, okay, let's see about getting this big old heavy thing back up in here. This thing is no fun getting it in here. It's heavy. There we go. So now it's time for the rear. We'll get this shackle bolted on next. Time for this one now. You guys will be happy to know that we already did the other side, and it went together perfectly, even easier than this side. This side fought me just a little bit, not real bad, but that other side is like smooth as butter. Ain't that the way it goes? You turn the camera on and it gets hard. When the camera's off, it's just like no problem at all. Oh, and hey, it's worth mentioning, leave all of your bolts loose until you get this whole thing together, and then you could go around and tighten everything up. Yeah, it makes it so much easier to actually get bolts to line up with the holes and all of that when you can actually kind of wiggle this stuff around. So, yeah, just kind of leave it loose. I'm making a couple of new saddles for the axle to sit in. If you'll notice over here, the old saddle is on top of the axle now, right here. Right here's the old one. Since we flipped it, well, now this is on top, so we have to make a new one for the bottom. There has to be something in there to sit on top of that spring. So I'm just making these right here. It's got the hole, that's your locator hole. When you put this down on top of there, the bolt, remember that bolt that we put in, that brand new one, it sticks up through here. Your axle sits right inside of here. We're gonna weld the crap out of it down both sides, and that will be our new saddle. And since it sits on top of the bolt, it can't go anywhere. And then the U-bolts go right over that, you'll see. Alright, so now that I cut the threads off the end of that pipe, basically what I'm doing is I'm just cutting a groove down both sides of it. We're going to take about, I would say, a third of the pipe with us, not quite half. We only need about a third of it. and that will make both of our saddles. So give me a few more minutes. I'll finish cutting this up and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So yeah, there's our new saddle. This is what the axle is going to sit inside of. This will replace the stock one, which is now on top of the axle. We need it to be on the bottom like it used to be. So this will be our replacement. I'm going to clean these up with my flapper disc over here. We'll deburr it. It's got lots of burrs on it. I want that axle to sit in there nice. I don't want anything holding it up. So let's get rid of those right quick. So here we are, finished product. Obviously it's going to need a coat of paint, but we'll do that after we're done. This is going to slide right up inside of there. You see where that nut's sticking up out of there? That's what the hole is for. That's our locator. So once you take this and you just slide it right up in here, like so. Look at that. That's in place. It can't slide back and forth this way because it has that stud sticking up through the hole. We're going to run, once we get everything, our side to side perfect, and we get this sitting down in there, we'll run us a nice bead on the front and back of this, and then that is going to hold everything in place. And then obviously we're going to have to put our U-bolts back on. Okay. And of course they sell kits for all of this. It's called a flip kit is what it is, and we're not buying one. We're just making the little pieces. Not a big deal, pretty easy. So I'll just give you a little bit of a teaser. I don't know if you noticed, but that is way up higher now from where it was before. Remember, this was all way down here. So judging by that and the fact that we don't even have the weight on it yet, it looks like we're definitely brought it down quite a bit. And I'm thinking just maybe we're going to be tucking wheel. That's right. I think the rim just might go up in this fender well when we're done. And I think that's going to look awesome. So I've got my piece made for this side. Before we can do any kind of welding on this axle, man, we got to get some of this old rust and this undercoating and all that stuff ground off of here, man, and your welds will be terrible. So I got my wire wheel out. Let's get to it. So I'm going to get the U-bolts on, but before I could put this bottom plate on, I got to cut the bottom of this stud off. It's sticking out just a little bit too far on our new bolt. No worries, pretty easy. You guys remember before, the U-bolts came in and it had this plate. You guys remember the plate was facing up like that. Well, now it'll be around on the bottom instead. And of course they sell kits for all of this. It's called a flip kit is what it is, and we're not buying one. We're just making the little pieces. Not a big deal, pretty easy. Now we can throw our U-bolts in like that. And the next problem we'll have is that they'll be a little bit too long, or actually quite a bit too long. This is us using what we have like we always do around here. So rather than just rush straight out and buy new ones, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a couple of sleeves that we could put on there to get us back down to the threads. Because what's happening here is now that we took all those leaves out, these are too long. The threads just don't go far enough up. So we'll have to make us a little space or some sort of a shim. And the best way to do that is just make one out of old pipe. All right, made our spacers. Check them out. Got them all deburred, ready to go. Okay, let's go together now. Let's get our spacer on there, our washer, and then the nut. There we go. We're going to do that a few more times. There's another one. And this is going to save us a few bucks. I thought I had some of these old U-bolts laying around from another lowering kit, and I think I know where they're at, but I don't feel like digging for them. So this is Me being lazy right here, making these spacers. They're gonna work just fine though. You can already see that. And that way we can save those other U-bolts for another project, right? All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna tighten this down, but I'm not gonna get super tight with it because we still gotta set our pinion angle. Okay, I think I'm gonna call that good for now. Like I said, we don't wanna tighten it fully tight until we get that pinion angle just right. And the way I did the pinion angle is I just took a measurement before I took it apart, and now I'm just gonna put it back together the same way it was, and it should be fine. And you wanna measure your pinion angle at ride height, in other words, with the weight on the wheels. So what I've done is I've just put the jack right underneath the pumpkin. We'll jack it up till it just comes off those jack stands, and you know all the weights on it, and then we'll take that measurement and we'll rock that axle until it's just right, and then we'll really tighten it down. Okay, so I thought I would give you guys a sneak peek of what this thing's looking like. We've got it pretty well buttoned up. Like I said, we got to set that pinion angle and then run those two final welds where the axle actually sits into the saddle. Before I do all that, I just wanted to show you guys, man, this thing is looking awesome. There it is, sitting on the ground, y'all. What do you think, man? So we leveled it out pretty much. What do you think? Check it out. I think it looks pretty dang good. I wouldn't mind it being just a little bit lower in the rear, but you know what? We got to do a C-notch. That's as far down as I could bring it without doing a C-notch. So, anybody wondering what a dang C-notch is? Well, you can see right here, the axle is actually touching the frame. Can't have that. So what we do is we actually build the frame up and over the axle, and we cut out the spot that's touching. So we get our suspension travel back by doing that. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier. I can't remember, but that drive shaft's too long now, and we're gonna have to take it out and shorten it. But we were gonna have to do that anyway, because remember, we're gonna shorten the whole truck down a good 15 inches, I believe is what it's gonna end up being. So that drive shaft's gotta come out of there. And when it does, I don't know, I think we're gonna probably end up running a one-piece drive shaft. It's gonna be a short wheelbase truck. I really don't see why we need a carrier bearing for it. And that's the reason I didn't set my pinion angle yet. We'll do all that at once. I don't want to do my C-notch until after we shorten it. I think it would be kind of weird to cut into the frame knowing that we got to cut the whole truck in half. I just don't want to mess with anything until we've got it shortened up. Once we cut the truck in half, shorten it, and then we'll come back in here and cut all this out and re-weld it and do all of that with the C-notch. Oh, and hey, check that out. We're missing something there. What do y'all think? Yeah, this is the point where we're going to have to actually cut into the bed as well. That's the reason I'm going to go ahead and just kind of cut the video here. We've got plenty of work left to do, and I think the video is getting long enough. So what we'll do on the next video is we're going to cut out for our wheel wells so that we can put our duals in, and we're going to remove the bump stops out of there and see if we can get a little bit of suspension travel so we can drive it in and out of the shop, things like that, before we actually cut in and do our C-notch. Once the bed is actually fit and ready to go, God, you guys, I love how that looks. That just looks so cool. But once that's all done, then we'll go through and shorten it up. But man, I just had to show you guys what it looked like. I couldn't keep that from you no more, man. That's looking so much better. I love the way that looks. Of course, once we get the C-notch in it, this will actually be down just a little bit lower, if you can believe that. We've got plenty of room. Plenty of room. There is not going to be any tires rubbing at all. I made sure to widen this bed out enough for there to be room to stick your hand in there even after it's lowered down. So I don't want to be trimming the inner fender wells or any of that kind of crap. I hate that. And we had the power to make this bed as wide as we wanted, as wide as we needed. So I made sure that we had plenty of room there. Man, I'll tell you, I feel so much taller now standing next to this thing. Remember, it's like when this thing got here, the roof was up here. I swear, this thing, it seemed like it was a monster truck. And I couldn't stand it, man. This looks so much better now. I don't know how anybody could look at this and think, oh man, you ruined it now. I know that's what some of you guys are thinking, but trust me, man, this thing's gonna have all its suspension travel, you know, with the drop spindles. We were able to keep springs in it that are tall enough that there's some travel there. And then back here, we're gonna have the C-notch, so nothing's gonna be banging on the frame or anything. You'll still be able to haul some weight in the back, a trailer, a boat, whatever, man. It's still going to be a usable truck. That's what happens when you take your time and do it right and don't just take the torch and start heating up springs. And I've been there. I was a kid once. I used to do it like that, but this is the way to go. And doing it like that is kind of what gave this whole low riding thing a bad name. And well, technology caught up a long time ago, man. You can lower a vehicle even lower than this and still have plenty of suspension travel and all. You won't have ground clearance, but who cares? We just want the suspension travel. That way we're not riding down the road, you know, feeling every little pebble in the road. We don't want to do that. And we want to still be able to haul some weight back here. So that's why I left the leaf pack having at least 5 springs in it. It should be enough to haul some weight. I think we'll be fine. So no worries, y'all. We're not ruining a perfectly good truck. We're just making a perfectly good truck even better. That's what I think. Listen, man, if you made it this far in the video, I assume that you're kind of digging what we're doing here. And man, would you please hit the old subscribe button? That really would help us out. It helps the channel grow, helps us where we could do more of this stuff in the future, man. I really would like to keep this going, but it is expensive. And I know most of you guys know, man, this stuff could be really hard to accomplish. We do things as cheaply as possible around here. I mean, just dirt cheap. A lot of things we do for free because we just make stuff ourselves. And even then, it is still extremely difficult to get these projects going and keep them moving along. But you guys have been such a huge help, man. Watching the videos, thumbs up in the videos, leaving me a little comment, all that stuff. You've got the channel to a level where we can do some things now, man. And I'd like to keep it going because it would be cool to start cranking stuff like this out all the time. This stuff right here takes me back to when I was a kid, y'all. This is how Weird Beard got started. One of these, just like it. And I swear to God, man, I turned my dad's driveway into an oil slick, cleaning on that old truck, taking it apart, fixing it up, trying to put it back together, and just doing the best I could. I didn't know anything back then. I was just learning, and I probably screwed up more stuff than I fixed. But you know what? It's what got me here, where I'm at now. And while I still got a lot to learn, I can hold my own now. But you got to start somewhere. And this is right where I started doing stuff like this. And this, you know, coming back to this has got me kind of feeling like a kid again. I actually do enjoy it. I get a little bent out of shape sometimes. I do all that off camera. But anyway, yeah, but I am enjoying myself. I really am. And I appreciate you guys. You guys are the ones making all that possible. But I am going to go ahead and get on out of here for now. I'll see y'all later.